There are boatloads of ideas and videos on when you should start taking your CPP benefit. And that's lovely. But after all the blah, 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 when are people actually taking it? My name is Reese, and in this little video, we're going to cut through all the noise and take a quick boo at the real numbers. But before we dive in, I gotta say that understanding what your options are when it comes to CPP and understanding what the implications of those options are is super important. You do not want to go into this blindly. It is a lot of money to make mistakes on. So if you don't know these things thoroughly, I have a stack of very easy to understand videos that can help you out. I'll leave a link below so you can check them out when you're done watching this one. Okay, let's get to it. I want to start with some data from a recently released report from the National Institute on Aging, which sounds very academic. And FP Canada, who is basically the regulator and promoter of financial planning in Canada. Now, this report was released in 2020, so it's not exactly up to the minute, but the numbers are solid. So let's start with this graph. It's an easy one. This is simply showing us the percentage of people in 2019 who started CPP at all of the different eligible ages. You'll notice that there's two different colored lines, and that's just showing us the breakdown of males and females, but they're pretty much the same across the board, so that's pretty much all I have to say about that. So looking at this, we can see that roughly 30% of people started CPP as early as they could at age 60. And remember, normal start date for CPP is age 65. That's when you would be eligible for your full, non-reduced amount that would normally be available to you, which is basically based off of how much you and your employers have contributed to CPP throughout all of your working years. But you can take it as early as age 60 if you want to. You'll just get less for doing that. 36% less, in fact. And that's for the rest of your life. So even though there's a 36% reduction for taking it at age 60, nearly a third of the eligible Canadians chose to do that anyway. Now, I'm not saying that's wrong. There are some very valid reasons for choosing to do this, but I talk about all of that in a different video. So back to the graph. Moving along the ages, you can see that only about 5% or so of people are taking it at ages 61, 62, 63, and 64. But then it spikes up big time at age 65, when people are eligible for the full non-reduced amount. Then it pretty much falls off a cliff with hardly anyone choosing to start it at age 66. Even less at 67, and so on all the way to a measly 1% at age 70. Which is interesting because you get an extra 8.4% for each year you delay taking it. So if you wait all the way to 70, you get an extra 42% of your benefit for the rest of your life. Again, this video isn't about whether you should or shouldn't wait. There are valid reasons for doing either. But to see only 1% of eligible Canadians choosing to delay is at minimum very interesting. So looking at all of this, it looks like lots of people want CPP ASAP. But most people are willing to hold off for the full non-reduced amount that they can get at age 65. Next to no one likes waiting past 65, no matter how much extra money they get for doing it. And this isn't a new phenomenon. I'm going to show you another chart, and it's a busy chart, but don't worry, I'm going to make it easy to see what you need to see. This is a chart from that same study showing what percentage of females took CPP at the different ages all the way from 1990 to 2018. And the only thing you really need to notice here is that most everyone has been taking CPP at age 60 or age 65 as far back as this graph goes. And the same for males. The percentage of those taking it at age 60 versus 65 changes a bit, but the moral of the story is the same. The vast majority of Canadians have been taking CPP at age 60 or age 65 for a long time, and hardly any Canadians have been delaying it past 65. Now, to wrap this up in a nice tidy bow, I want to point out one more study. This was a survey done by the Ontario Securities Commission and Ipsos in 2023, so it's pretty fresh. Now, this was a survey and not the actual numbers as reported by CPP, but you got to think that not a lot of people have a ton of reason to lie about when they started CPP, so these numbers should be pretty dependable. Anyway, the dark blue line represents those who have already started CPP, and the light blue line represents those who haven't started it yet. So this light blue line actually represents the age that they plan to start CPP. Now, as you can see, for those who've already started it, 39% started at age 60. A few percent started each year from age 61 to 64, and then, as we'd expect by now, it ramps up again for age 65, followed swiftly by an epic drop-off at age 66, all the way to age 70. However, it looks like there's actually a bit of a lift at age 70. Looks like 2% of people in 2023 delayed taking it to age 70. But if you'll recall the other graph, the data from 2019, 4 years earlier, only 1% delayed to age 70. So that's double. My goodness, massive numbers. But all joking aside, look at how many people plan to hold off until age 70. That's the light blue line. And that is actually a serious jump to 19%. So if this survey is any kind of accurate, it looks like more people are starting to choose to delay their CPP to age 70. Maybe it's all the videos floating around on YouTube telling people that they should. Or maybe it's the fact that our financial planning software is getting better and we can see the implications more clearly. Or maybe people are just working longer these days. Or maybe there's just something in the water.